In the English language, thanks to the duality of meaning and the context of prose, the same sentence written in the same way can mean two different things. Puns and double entendre catch us off guard and make us reassess previous statements that were made, which is why they piss us off and make us laugh. Puns exploit words that sound alike but have other meanings in the context of a joke. For example, I was 6 afraid of 7, because 7, 8, 9. Double entendre, on the other hand, exploits words or phrases that are open to two interpretations. For example, I love going to the circus and getting cream pied by clowns. This versatility of meaning in English gives written works the ability to subvert our understanding of plot by clarifying the meaning of words or phrases later. In terms of Petscop, that means possible red herrings inserted into the plot, so we may have to pay close attention to the context in which things are said or written. First of all, let me tell you why I'm explaining all this. In Petscop, information about the game is relayed to Paul, and to us via the YouTube description, in text boxes. In Petscop, a text box appears when Paul triggers an event, like when the question mark triangle appears, or entering a context-sensitive area. These text boxes seem static and require certain actions to trigger them. None of them seem dynamically created. Even during episode 12 with Belle, the text box states that they were left there just in case she was ever freed, making them seem like they only activate during certain areas or after a certain amount of time has passed. However, while their activation seems static, I'm not so sure about their contents. Keep that in mind. Now, on to colour theory. Colour theory states that each character has a colour attributed to their text. These colours distinguish who is talking and seem to be linked with the different coloured tools. The colour designations are Amber and Care's mother equal blue, Pen and Care equal yellow, Marvin and Randus equal green, Tiara and Belle equal purple, Toneth equals red, Mike might be pink, and Raina equals white. And it's Raina I'm going to focus on. The reason we believe Raina to be connected with white is dubious at best. All we have is a note, signed by somebody called Raina, in the Windmill Girls' room. However, there are no quotation marks denoting speech, and the majority of text outside the context of two people corresponding is also white. So why believe Raina is connected with the colour white? Who is Raina? How can we tell it's him talking? I guess we'll start by reading the note in Petscop 3. Your wife says, Care isn't growing eyebrows. You say, that's a puzzle. You're secretly very excited to hear this news. You're in the bathtub thinking about her. I have a guess at which child you'll pick next. When you find her room, the passage to my right will lead you to her. She'll appear from the darkness, limping, and I'll shoot her in the head. Tiara says young people can be psychologically damaged beyond rebirthing. A young person walks into your school building. They walk in with you. You're holding their hands. They come out crying into their hands because no one will love them, not ever again. Nobody loves me. They wanted the Newmaker plane. This is where context comes into play. When you find her room comes before she'll appear from the darkness. If we read this linearly, then whoever wrote this note seems to be saying something very cryptic about what'll happen to her when her room is found. However, if it's read in terms of instructions written for someone to find, in this case it's clearly Marvin, then what we could be reading is this. When you find her room, the passageway to my right will lead you to her. To find her, she'll appear from the darkness, limping, and I'll shoot her in the head. A lot of what's written isn't fully explained, because this is correspondence between two people who already understand the context in which the instructions are given. So what do these instructions say? She'll appear from the darkness. Limping. And I'll shoot her in the head. These are actually instructions to find the Windmill Girl. And what do we see both Marvin and Paul doing after this note is found? Exactly what's written down. So if this single note shows us anything, it's that whoever wrote this note is personified by the white tool, as we see it shooting the Windmill Girl in the head. But was it Raina that left the note? His name isn't on it, so it could be anybody. Well, let's look at the first mention of the name Raina in Petscop 9. At the end of the note, written in the Windmill Girl's room, there is a sign-off, Raina, Newmaker. As a side note, the comma between the two words may mean two things. That Raina is this person's last name and the Newmaker is his first, or the Newmaker is his title, like Lord or Doctor, and Raina is his name. So what does this note say? It's a less cryptic but still confusing semi-explanation of what happened at a windmill in 1977. It's not addressed to any one person in particular, though it might be Marvin. There's mentions of friends, sisters, wives, and appearing and disappearing windmills. But what's clear is that Rayner, the author, doesn't fully understand or know about the windmill's shadow/darkness mechanic. He can't actually find the windmill. However, this may be because this note, much like the conversation in Petscop 14, is referring to real-world happenings and not in-game mechanics. But look how he signs himself off. Rayner, New Maker. Where have we heard the term New Maker before, with the exception of Games New Maker? In Petscop 5, Paul asks, "Who am I?" and Tool responds, New Maker. Later in Petscop 9, after the note is read and catching Care NLM, Care's description reads, "You're the New Maker. You can turn Care NLM into Care A and close the loop." Paul is not a New Maker, he's the New Maker, as in only one New Maker. Same with Rayner. He was the New Maker. Whatever the New Maker is, it's a recognised role within Petscop, and both Rayner and Paul have held that title. So this note may show that Rayner didn't write the note in Care's room in Petscop 3 because he didn't sign off and he can't find the windmill. But then, who did write the note? I'll answer that later. For now, fast forward to Petscop 11. Paul captures Care A, and there's an ominous message in the pause menu description. Care A's description reads like a normal description until it gets cut off by Rayner. He mentions a present he started for Marvin in 1996, then lets Paul know where to save Care B. He then tells us to fuck off and signs off. Rayner. So what happened? The first 3 paragraphs are obviously written for or by someone else, as Rayner states, "I'm back," seemingly interjecting and overriding the description at that point. The "I'm back" probably refers to the message he left in the pause menu. The person in the first paragraph states that Michael A was his brother. Assuming that Rayner is overriding a previous description, that means this other commentator is a different person. However, if Rayner was the one who initially wrote that description, then Michael is his brother. Those are the 2 possibilities there. Then there's the second part of Care A's description by Rayner. "I started this in 1996 for Marvin," followed by, "If you think there any effort, see if you can save Care B or Care NLM." In this context, what Rayner started for Marvin in 1996 was Care A, but he was probably meaning the game itself, as in he started Petscop in 1996, and in 1997 he gave it to Marvin. However, he makes the distinction between Marvin and you, so now it reads as, he started it for Marvin in 1996, but is now giving it to Paul. He tells us and himself to get fucked and go check our bathroom. He seems like a bitter and depressed person who's given up and is now passing the buck to someone else. Rayner signs off as just Rayner, and no New Maker title follows, which may mean, if there can only be one, that Rayner lost or gave up this title, and now Paul is the New Maker. Okay, let's take a break here and talk about quotation marks. In English, they are used to denote quotes made by people, obviously. However, it depends on how they're used. For example, the very first YouTube description. Rayner gave us this gift on Christmas 1997 and 2000. Why is Rayner in quotes? Quotes don't denote names, unless we don't know someone's name for sure. Now read the end screen for Petscop 7. We've had to cover something with a black box. Right now, we can't say why. Some other things we're expecting to censor in the future. A big present with a sticker on it, something on a wall in a black house, and written on a chalkboard. As you can see, these quotation marks are used to define something that is an ad hoc designation, as there is a lack of information to describe them more accurately. An explanation is that Paul, and the person he's playing for or with, is saying that they've had to, for a lack of a better word, hence the quotation marks, censor something with a black box, and are told to censor other things in the future. However, Paul doesn't know what these things are that he'll be censoring. He just has a verbal description of them, so he writes them down as such. The use of quotation marks with the name Petscop and the word attempts seems like they are added because an actual description would be needless. We already know or will soon understand what they meant. but the use of quotation marks with the name Raina is different. This makes it seem like the person who gave the family gifts was only assumed to be Raina, or the name Raina is an alias and they aren't 100% sure of who it was. So who or what is Raina? The more I go down this rabbit hole, the more it seems like Raina never really existed, or if he did, he's not the same anymore. So I read the About section more closely. Raina gave this gift to us on Christmas 1997 and 2000. It was the single longest day of our lives. We were all certain he was dead at the time. He had been missing since June 1997 and 2000. We are not as concerned about these things now. The phrase, "we were all certain he was dead at the time," and the fact that he keeps reappearing and going missing on certain dates really intrigues me. So he went missing June 1997 and 2000, then reappeared on Christmas of those years. And both times the authors thought he was dead. But why think he's dead? And then it hit me. It's a long shot, but it's the only shot I got. Who else is dead in this universe? Michael Hammond. But we do see Michael talk in Petscop 6. He says, "funny stupid blob monster," when describing Tonneth. So if Mike is Michael, even though he's dead, he can still speak through the text box. But he's not speaking, he's being quoted by somebody. The sentence in full is, "funny stupid blob monster," says Mike. That's what it is. So someone is telling us that Mike is saying something, and then agreeing with him. This is happening within the context of Tonneth's description box. However, this description also seems as if it's been overridden by somebody, and is being created on the spot, hence the text trailing off the screen. But, like Care A's description, is it Raina doing the overriding? For this, we need to read between the lines, like how she'll appear from the darkness can mean becoming the Shadow Monster Man and making the windmill appear. So what's something that accompanies Raina when we know he's speaking? Well, he signs off with a dash symbol. Now look at the text box in Petscop 6. Before every sentence, that symbol appears until the dog talk starts, and then it disappears. The phrase, "it's yucky outside," makes it seem like a child was writing. This is reaffirmed by the rambling nature of the text and the childish repetition of words. It seems like Raina was talking, but Mike got carried away and started rambling. Like I said, it's a long shot, but it's a point of correlation nonetheless. There's also the multiple dash symbols used in the Petscop 1 video description, but that might just be a sentence break. Petscop 1 didn't always have that in the description, but YouTube got rid of annotations, so the note was moved from the screen to the description. However, there are more patterns in Petscop that have gone ignored. If Raina did in fact make Petscop for Marvin, then he may very well have written a note for him. Here's Paul explaining it.
Because the note, remember the note that came with this game, it said, "for you." It was for you, and this note is referring to the player. It's saying you. I was already thinking this, but it seems like it's possible. This game was made for, well, this part of the game was made for somebody to see, or at least at some point it was, I don't know, it was intended for somebody. Not me, certainly.
It's a game made for somebody to see, hence all the ambiguous, unexplained conversations that keep happening. Also, where else do you see this? For you, semicolon. This sentence structure is seen at the start of Petscop 14. Here's a similar puzzle. For you, Marvin. The sentence structure is indicative of somebody's writing style, and if Raina did indeed make the game and write the note that Paul finds, then he must have also written this message. The final bit of correlation is at the end of Petscop 6.
This game is trying very hard to make it seem like there's an entity in it, a ghost, or an AI trying to communicate with me. But you know, the way you know that there's a ghost in a game trying to communicate with you is if it comes out, if it stops being distant, and it comes out and you can have a real-time back and forth with it.
That phrase, "come out and you can have a real-time back and forth with it," is echoed by the pause screen in Petscop 11. "I'll come out in a minute, keep on playing." And what happens after that? Raina interjects in Care A's description with, "I'm back." So, Is Rainer a ghost? A ghost who was previously human and made the game Petscop? I'd hate it if he was. Maybe Rainer is the name the AI gave itself after it became sentient. It's hinted that the game does have the capacity to learn with the "It's a growing organism" line at the end of Petscop 13. We know it can mess with text boxes. It might be why the game plays differently in different saves and demo sequences, simply because the AI, or Rainer, didn't bother to change anything during those sequences because it didn't have to. Paul mentions that Rainer, though a little older than the rest of the kids in the basement, was playing video games with them during a birthday party he was once at in Petscop 11, so he was at one point a real person.
I saw him at a birthday party once. All the older kids were down in the basement playing video games, hide from everyone. He was down there too. He was older than the rest of them though.
Let's recap. What do we have? Rainer is a real-life person as confirmed by Paul in Petscop 11. He most likely made Petscop and the initial note that came with it, sans the Monster Man bit, for Marvin in 1996. Shortly after giving Marvin the game in June 1997, he disappeared, going by the date on the note and the previous YouTube descriptions. He came back to give gifts to his family on Christmas that year, after everyone assumed he was dead. This disappearance and reappearance happened again on the year 2000. The gifts that are mentioned in the About section are recordings, which we know from previous videos refer to in-game demo modes or inputs. So if the family thought he was dead, it might be because he hadn't shown up in the game for some time if he was indeed some sort of AI or ghost at that point. Or if he's not, the recordings were somehow given as gifts on Christmas and the disappearance is unexplained. Rainer might also be an alias of somebody else, going by the quotation marks around his name in the description. He was known by the title Newmaker in Petscop before Paul, as seen in the notes. But during the text box conversations, he no longer has that title, which could mean that the notes that are for Marvin are outdated and were put in the game before Rainer lost his Newmaker title. The note in Care's room would indicate that Rainer is personified by White Tool, because if Rainer made the game, then Rainer left the note for Marvin, and if Rainer left the note for Marvin, then he's the one that will shoot her in the head. And if he wrote that note, then the note in the Windmill Girl's room that he signs off in may actually be a written letter or conversation that Rainer may have had before Petscop was created. That's the only thing that makes sense if Rainer is indeed the one who made the game. Anyway, Rainer's interactions may be less about contacting Paul, but more like guiding him. And perhaps his final farewell may be in Petscop 11, where he just goes and tells everyone to fuck themselves. He's no longer the Newmaker and just explicitly telling Paul where to find Care B. We see in Petscop 12 that he'll come up temporarily, once again correlating with coming out, and later tells Belle that he's gone, so we may never hear from him again.